All right, so I have been going on a deep dive, learning as much as about the legends and the people who came before and who has established what the NBA has been about, the Professional Basketball Association, right? And Sidney Moncrief is one of those guys. So we're going to dive deep in it of him being the greatest perimeter defender ever. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's get it. I will have the link in the description of the video I'm reacting to as always.
Throughout the decades, there have been several great two-way players who left their lasting imprint on the league. Guys like Hakeem Olajuwon, Scottie Pippen, Gary Payton, and even more recent stars like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. But one of the all-time great two-way players who seems to fly under the radar everywhere other than on my channel is the Milwaukee Bucks legend Sidney Moncrief. This 6'4" point guard / shooting guard was an absolute problem in the 1980s. For some reason, he's rarely mentioned when discussing the all-time great two-way players. But back in his era, everyone knew that he was one of the most dreaded one-on-one matchups in the entire league, and on both ends of the court. So in order for us to understand what kind of player he was, let's start, as we always do, by taking it back to the beginning of his career. Moncrief was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks with the 5th overall pick in the 1979 draft out of the University of Arkansas. Obvious.
No! Let's go! We on the map, baby! We on the map. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way! Oh my God, bro. I'm already an instant fan. How did I not know that? I'm knowing history, man. I'm knowing history. I'm getting excited. Let's go.
His career. Moncrief was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks with the 5th overall pick in the 1979 draft out of the University of Arkansas. Obviously, Magic Johnson took all of the headlines as the first pick in that historic draft. But the next best player to come out of the class of 79 was in fact Moncrief. He had a somewhat slow start to his career, and in his rookie season, he averaged just 8 points in 20 minutes of action on a Bucks team that was still finding its groove. He didn't truly arrive until his 3rd season in the league, which was his first year as an NBA All-Star. As the team's leader in points, assists, and rebounds, he led his Bucks to a 55-27 record.
So he led in points, assists, and rebounds. Yeah, he was definitely a two-way player.
Good enough for the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference. As a solid pickpocket and a smothering on-ball defender, there's a good chance that he would have won the Defensive Player of the Year award that season if the award had actually existed at that point in history. But his time would soon come after. The Defensive Player of the Year award was introduced to the NBA in the 1982-83 season, and Moncrief went on to win the award in its first 2 seasons of existence in 1983 and 1984. To this very day, he's the only guard in NBA history to win the award multiple times. Not only was he a lockdown defender, but his skills continue to improve on the offensive end. As an athletically gifted slasher, he had his best season offensively in 1983, where he averaged over 22 points per game on 52.4% shooting. Typically, 6'4" guards struggle to be a high scorer while averaging north of 50% from the field. Not only did Moncrief do that in 1980.
Hold on, I gotta go. Normally, I'm gonna rewind it back. Normally, 40%, 45% is like the norm of being a really good scorer, but to hit 52% average, 22 points during the season is phenomenal.
Typically, 6'4" guards struggle to be a high scorer while averaging north of 50% from the field. Not only did Moncrief do that in 1983, but he actually shot better than 50% from the field over the course of his career. From 1982 to 1986, he was an All-Star in 5 straight seasons. But beyond the fact that his individual abilities were shining, he was also leading his team to be a consistent contender in the Eastern Conference. For some reason, when people talk about the 1980s Eastern Conference, people seem to only think of the Celtics, the Pistons, the Bulls, and the 76ers. But the thing is, the Bucks were always in that mix as well. From 1981 to 1987, Moncrief led his Bucks to have at least 50 wins in 7 straight seasons, including trips to the Eastern Conference Finals in 1983, 1984, and 1986. One shot.
I'm not even gonna be on. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna remember all of that information. All right, I'm just not. I might have to continue to be a sponge and listen to a lot of this information, and just keep watching. And that's really the goal. Is just keep learning. I'm spending a long time learning a lot of the history because I also feel like it's very valuable. Like I had to sit down and talk to an older gentleman, and it was about Barry Sanders, and I never watched football. But because I was sat down and was learning about these legends, I was able to have a conversation with him, which I would never be able to have a conversation with my coworker, you know what I'm saying, about football, which built a relationship. So I believe sports do build connections with folks because there's something you can relate to. Everybody can relate with sports. It's just really great. And yeah, anyways, just a little tangent I was on. If you want to see more reactions, just know that this is not a one-time thing that I am definitely diving into. I've discovered a passion of going through history of whether it's football, basketball, even potential baseball. If y'all open to see that, just share anything. I'm very open-minded. I want to learn as much as possible. Be culture within what stuff that happened back then, you know what I'm saying, the sports, because there was some phenomenal things that went on and I didn't even know.
He wins in 7 straight seasons, including trips to the Eastern Conference Finals in 1983, 1984, and 1986. One shocking accomplishment was when his Bucks swept Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics out of the 1983 semifinals, 4 games to 0. Larry Bird has since went on to describe that series as the most embarrassing moment of his life. In those semifinals, Moncrief led all players in scoring while leading his team in assists and steals. Eliminating Bird and the Celtics in the midst of their dynasty days was no easy task, but one of the greatest achievements of his career is what he accomplished in the 1985 NBA playoffs. When people think of Michael Jordan's playoff exits before Scottie Pippen developed into a co-star, they usually think of their losses at the hands of the Celtics and Pistons. But the thing is, neither of those teams were actually the first team to eliminate Michael Jordan from the playoffs. That was Sidney Moncrief and his Milwaukee Bucks. With the help of his co-star, Terry Cummings, the Bucks dominated the Bulls, winning the series in 4 games, 3 games to 1.
So they were the first to eliminate Mike from the series, 3-1. Milwaukee won 3-1 versus Chicago.
In that historic series, the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year winner, Sidney Moncrief, contained Michael Jordan to only 43.6% shooting over the course of the series. And then, when it came to the offensive end, Sidney averaged 26.5.
Sorry, so I'm trying to actually pause it while it's not talking, but my computer, for some reason, it's like kind of a little bit laggy. It's kind of a little funky. I don't know why. I try to pause it, but at the same time, it's not just pausing. So when I try to talk, I'm like trying to talk and pause it at the right time, but he ain't doing that. It's like, all right, no, we're going to continue to play it. So I'm going to rewind it back a little bit. But yeah, Jordan, even though he was held down, he still was able to do 43.6% in field goal footage. I mean, shooting.
Series. And then, when it came to the offensive end, Sidney averaged 26.5 points, nearly 5 rebounds, and nearly 5 assists, on far greater than 50-40-90 percentages over the course of the series. At the end of the day, I can't say enough positive things about this incredibly overlooked guard. Being the only guard to win back-to-back DPOYs is a special achievement in and of itself. But doing it in an era where he had to consistently guard guys like Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, and Clyde Drexler is just overwhelmingly impressive. Although he was one of the best players in the league during his prime, and although he's one of the greatest two-way players of all time, unfortunately, he didn't have very great longevity due to his degenerative knee issues and significant heel issues that drastically limited his productivity as he entered his late 20s. The drop-off was dramatic, and by the age of 29, he was only a shell of what he once was. At the age of 31, he retired from the NBA and spent an entire year away from professional basketball. When he was 33 years old, he came back to the NBA as a member of the Atlanta Hawks, but he only had very minor contributions throughout the course of the regular season. He did manage to have one amazing flashback when he dropped 23 points in just 22 minutes in Game 4 of the first round against Detroit. The Hawks were eventually eliminated in 5 games, and Moncrief shelved his sneakers for good. In total, he made 5 All-Star teams, 5 All-NBA teams, 5 All-Defense teams, and was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year winner, and is a basketball.
Holy smokes. 5 times NBA All-Star, 5 times NBA All-NBA first and 4th second, 5 times All-Defense.
Basketball Hall of Famer. Some of the greatest players of all time remember the impact of Moncrief quite well. For example, Michael Jordan said this about the Bucks star: "When you play against Moncrief, you're in for a night of all-around basketball. He'll hound you everywhere you go, both ends of the court. You just expect it." Larry Bird had this to say as well: "Moncrief does everything you're supposed to do on defense and doesn't take any shortcuts. Plus he does it every night." To me, what's mind-blowing is how he's rarely discussed among the greatest perimeter defenders in NBA history. Usually guys like Gary Payton, Michael Jordan, and even Kobe Bryant take all of the spotlight. But I think if you ask players who actually played against him in the 1980s, there's a very good chance that they have Moncrief in the top spot overall ahead of all those other legends. As for myself personally, well, it's tough to rank players defensively when there's so much nuance involved. At the very least, I have him as a top 5 perimeter defender on my all-time rankings.
Okay.
So what do you guys think? How good was Moncrief in your own words? And who's a player in the modern NBA who's similar to him? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below.
Alright, shout out to this video. Great breakdown. I mean, the whole channel in general, I definitely have to check out more. The guy knows his stuff. Seems like he's really bringing you some good stats from all of that. I've learned a lot just within this 8 minutes of Sidney Moncrief, of how much he contribute, where he was from, what college he came from, to, you know, the teams he played with. And I mean, the dude was phenomenal, you know, and it's sad that these guys don't get the recognition, and the names and their legacy don't live on because people just don't know. And I feel like it is my duty to do that, to bring light from the younger generation to see this. Yeah, man, comment down below who else you want me to see, and I'll be looking forward to that. See you on the next one. Hit that like button, subscribe button. Peace.